Welcome back to this monetary policy special. The minutes are out of the July 8th meeting, and I've been speaking with the external members of the MPC, Dr. Shashanka Bhide, Jayanth Varma, and Ashima Goyal. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for waiting by. Now, we were expecting that the Reserve Bank will release its calculation of potential growth and neutral rate. That was kind of hinted at in the MPC press conference, but we haven't got that. However, we have a sentence in Dr. Michael Patra's minutes which seem to indicate what the RBI appears to be thinking. I'm reading out that statement. With output in broad balance in relation to its potential, monetary policy can remain neutral to growth at this juncture and stay focused on aligning inflation. Dr. Patra seems to be indicating that this is the potential of the economy, the current, between 7.5 and 8. And therefore, the rate is already neutral to growth, 200 basis. Would you agree with that, Dr. Varma? He seems to be saying neutral rate is 200 and potential is 8%.
You see, I think this is the same issue that we talked about, that if an economy grows at a low level for many years, then the economy gets conditioned to that growth, and it becomes difficult for the economy to grow faster, right? So this is the question that we are asking, that if we have had only 5% growth since the pre-COVID days, then has the economy got conditioned to that low rate of growth and it is incapable of growing faster? I do not believe that we have yet reached that stage. Okay. I think that the economy is still capable of bouncing to higher growth. I do not believe that the output gap is closed. I believe that the economy has a lot of growth potential. And we must also remember that there have been a significant amount of reforms that are directed towards increasing the growth potential of the economy. What was the entire public sector investment push, infrastructure investment? What was all that about? All that was about increasing the potential growth of the economy. Yeah. Are we saying that that entire investment push has failed? That it has not boosted the growth potential of the economy? I would not believe so. Yeah. I believe that that has actually increased the growth potential of the economy. So I do not believe that the output gap is closed.
Okay. Well, Dr. Bhide, I think a previous statement or a press conference, the Reserve Bank did indicate that, core is the real inflation. They cannot, the MPC cannot do much about fuel being an external commodity and food, being a slave to the weather. They had indicated in the past that core is what they would target, and core is at 3, sir. Way below target. So is there an argument that, food inflation will take the course that the seasons take it? So maybe we are already reached the target?
So I think we certainly are at a better position than we were, 3 months back, 6 months back, and so on. So I think that the core inflation, excluding food and fuel, is at 4 or slightly below 4% right now. But I think the target is the headline. So in that sense, I think we cannot have both the
we can't have two targets. Okay.
So I think that indeed has been the concern. There is also the issue that the new surveys of expenditure show that the share of food is much lower than what it used to be. So I think there are these issues to be sort of taken into account also. Okay. If you see the numbers for May, for example, the rural inflation is about 5%. Yes. Compared to urban inflation. So I think there are always these differences across sectors and so on. So I would argue that what we are after is the target of 4%, and in a sort of reasonably durable way. So as I said earlier, we are looking at 3 quarters. Okay. About 4.5%, I think, out of 4 in the coming year. So in that sense, I think we need to be looking at sort of sustaining this deceleration in inflation rate in the medium term.
Okay. Dr. Bhide, a question that I had asked Varma a little obliquely. What is your sense of India's growth potential or growth trajectory? Let's forget the word potential since it involves too much of jargon. do you see us continuing to grow at 7% or even higher? Or do you think at this rate, at this juncture, the longer term growth, say up to 2030, would be a little lower than that? What would your number be?
I think, growing at 8% or, much above 7% and so on, as I said earlier, I mean, we need to have all the engines firing. I think, especially the external sector. As you see the composition of growth today, I think it's very skewed. I mean, so we see growth in certain sectors and not in many other sectors. So I think we cannot be only focusing on aggregate growth. We should be looking at the growth which is much more spread across sectors. So I think that the growth numbers of 8%, 9%, and so on that seem feasible. I think only when we have the very buoyant external demand.
Okay, well, actually, at the moment, the IMF has pushed up its global growth number by about 10 basis points. I think it came out in April, and they pushed it up from 3.1 to 3.2%. So if anything, it's a little better than previously expected, at least if that's of any consolation. Dr. Verma, just a final question. Dr. Rajiv Ranjan argues that the fisc consolidating is being pushed as an argument that will dampen growth. But he says the fisc is consolidating because taxes are higher than expected and the RBI dividend is higher than expected. It is not because the fisc is spending less. So he says this year as well, the fisc will not be a negative factor. You agree?
The fiscal stance is best measured by the fiscal deficit. Right?
Okay.
That is the way one thinks about it.
Okay.
That if you raise 100 of taxes and you spend 100 on that, then you're not really boosting the economy. You boost the economy if you tax 100 and you spend 101 or 102. That's what boosts the economy. So that fiscal deficit is shrinking, and it is shrinking quite correctly. One is not disputing the need for that fiscal consolidation. The fiscal deficit expanded during COVID, it has to shrink. And it is very right that it shrinks. But, we should not try to sugarcoat that pill.
Thank you very much for an extremely rich conversation, Dr. Verma and Dr. Bhide.